think what you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. Our brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
Here we go. Oh, wrong one.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you don't know, Elon today had to walk back a statement on Gaza condoms, and he's still fucking wrong.
But
his excuse for it in the Oval Office was, "Hey, I'm gonna say some shit that's wrong." That was his excuse for firing up millions of Americans thinking that we're sending condoms that, first of all, it was 50 million, then Trump turns it to 100 million, that were being used to make condom bombs to float into Israel. And they're still wrong about it. So the only evidence that anybody can find around this is that in Gaza province in Mozambique, we do have health clinics that do provide condoms and other forms of contraception and shit because of the AIDS crisis. but there's no number attached to that because we're funding a hospital, and that hospital treats people. The other part is in Gaza, actual Gaza, in Israel, or just outside of Israel. They are funding the International Medical Corps. Is that what it's called? International Medical Corps to work in Gaza. And they've been sent $50 million twice. Right? And they are a field hospital. Like, they're literally, it doesn't matter who you are, what your skin color is, whatever. It doesn't matter who you fight for, didn't fight for, civilian. It doesn't matter. They treat people at a field hospital. And they've been given $50 million twice to run two different field hospitals. And if a patient comes in, it's a hospital. So if a patient comes in seeking contraception, then they provide contraception, whatever it is, right? It's a hospital. You wouldn't go to the fucking health department and be like, oh, it's for big condoms. That's all they do is big condom. Well, they do a lot of things. We still don't know where the fuck this came from. Just watch him. Hold on. He's like, well, sometimes I'm just going to say shit that isn't true. That was his response. We want to watch the long form. Let's watch the long form. Fuck it.
X, are you okay?
This kid, like, I understand he's trying to soften up. He's trying to put his kid in front of the camera because he probably wants people to like him more. He probably wants his kid to have a social media presence and people being like, that's the best kid in the world. This fucking kid, while we're trying to get answers from the President of the United States, makes me so fucking anxious. Like, if you want to be with your kid out in public when the paparazzi finds you or whatever, in the White House, when you've called a press conference, is not the place. That's not it. It makes me so fucking anxious. Like, the kid's like fucking pulling his hat and fucking trying to change it. He's trying to grab arms while answering. I hate it. I fucking hate it.
This is X.
This is the only kid that he pretends to love.
And he's a great guy, high IQ. He's a high IQ individual.
And let's go check out his cool chain he's got.
So thank you very much. We had a busy day today.
Elon stops to say, check out his cool chain he's got on. The kid picks his nose and wipes it on the Resolute desk. How high is that IQ?
The king just left, and we've had a great discussion, terrific discussion, concerning Gaza and everything else. We had discussions also about Saturday at 12 o'clock. It's going to be a big moment. We'll see what happens. I don't expect much happening with these people.
I do not believe for a second that this is just like, oh, it was my turn to watch him and we couldn't find a babysitter, whatever bullshit excuse. Like, he wants his kid to be part of this, right? He wants his kid to have a cult following too. I guarantee it.
People. But we'll see what happens. And we're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which is shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Again, I'll give you a fucking example. Let's say that I provide $100 million to families that their home was destroyed by a fire. Okay, I provide $100 billion to families, their home was destroyed by a fire. Two people make false claims, okay? Their house actually wasn't destroyed. They set it on fire themselves. Their house wasn't destroyed. They don't need the money. They had insurance. It covered it, but they make false claims and it slips through. But another 100 million people had perfectly legitimate claims. But those two people with false claims, one of them buys a car and one of them buys a fucking yacht. Who cares? Then I come out and say, FEMA is paying for people to buy luxury cars and yachts. That's all they do. Obviously, it's not true, right? Just because one, like the other one was, we funded a group that was a legitimate group that helped with humanitarian aid, that did their thing. They used the funds. And then 8 months later, that group supports bringing a fucking play to Colombia. And they're like, we're funding transgenders in Colombia. Like, none of it makes sense. It's always out of proportion. no sane person would argue with you that government spending is always accurate, it's always correct, it's always used for the right purposes. But to take a small example from something that really helps people and then make it like the entire program is shut, we got to shut it down now, we got to rebuild it, we don't know where any of the money's going. It's helping people. Hold on just a second. The one that no one should be arguing with, and no one can explain to me why. Why the fuck would we shut down the CFPB? Why? Why would we shut down the CFPB? That is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Every year, they literally return tons of money to people who have been scammed. And they cost us $0. They're funded by the fees that are paid from banks. The fees that are paid by banks for the Federal Reserve, that they pay for when they borrow money from the Federal Reserve. We don't pay a dime. Banks pay for it in fees that they pay for borrowing money, interest and borrowing money from the Federal Reserve. We don't pay for it at all. And they literally, when you get scammed by someone, you call them and say, hey, this company scammed me, and they help you get money back. The main U.S. agency tasked with overseeing financial products and services used by everyday Americans, from credit cards to checking accounts to home loans, is the latest target of the Trump administration effort to make the federal government, or to remake the federal government. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's new leader has shuttered the agency's headquarters and told staffers to stay at home and refrain from doing any work of any kind. The Trump administration team, run by tech billionaire Elon Musk, is also focusing on some of its efforts on the CFPB. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, has accessed CFPB's internal computer systems and deleted its public-facing social media accounts. In recent weeks, Musk has criticized the CFPB in posts on the social media site he owns. At one point, CFPB RIP. Here's what to know about it. It was literally created after 2008, after the financial crisis. Washington was looking for solutions after the devastating collapse of the U.S. banking system in 2008, which left many Americans with financial losses and raised questions about the operations of the country's financial institutions. 1 year later, then President Obama, this is the only reason he's getting rid of it, is because Obama put it into place. Obama proposed creating a new federal agency focused exclusively on protecting consumers from dubious financial products. Backers of the idea argued that because several federal agencies were regulating the consumer banking system, there were gaps in oversight that left consumers vulnerable or confused. The new agency would consolidate those regulatory responsibilities in one place. Some Republicans and banks opposed the idea, but its creation was included in the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, which was passed by Congress and signed by Obama in 2010. It's an independent bureau within the Federal Reserve. It's paid for. It's paid for. Your taxes don't go to this. It's paid for. And they're on your side to keep you from getting scammed by banks or lenders or credit card companies. It goes after dishonest and illegal practices within these companies. I don't understand why to go after this one. If we're eliminating wasteful spending, this one doesn't spend any money, taxpayer money. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. No one can understand this one, except they want more lenient rules around banking and credit cards and lending and shit, so more people get fucked.
And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I say we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption.
I can't even believe they're considering going against a judge's ruling.
And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, you say, what is the goal of Doge, and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy.
The kid's just fucking talking on the microphone and shit. Like, I fucking hate this kid.
Seem like, well,
not the kid. I hate this situation they've crammed this kid into. This is not the place he should be, right? He shouldn't be here fucking picking and pulling and wiping his fucking boogers on the desk and pulling his dad's hat and shit and showing off his gold chain while they're addressing the press. This is ridiculous.
are we in a democracy? Well, if you don't,
it makes me so anxious.
FX would have to. If you sorry, silly gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president.
So Russell Vought, who was the acting CFPB director, said that it was a woke and weaponized agency against disfavored industries and individuals for a long time. It was to protect you from banks and lenders. I don't know. That's so fucking crazy. It draws money from the Federal Reserve. I don't understand at all.
And the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the President, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there aren't some good, there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that's responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy,
which is exactly what he's doing. He's this unelected fourth branch that's going through and just raping shit without even knowing what the fuck it does. Well, I'm going to say some stuff wrong. Don't you think, listen, imagine I come out to you and I say, hey, I found these 10,000 government workers that weren't doing shit. So I laid them all off. That's one way I could approach it. Or I could come out and say, hey, are these 10,000 government workers doing anything? I should probably look into that before I fire them all. But if I go ahead and fire them all and then come back and say, oh my God, they were actually all air traffic controllers, I'm going to get some stuff wrong. Don't you think you should know? You should know where the money's going and where it was going to be spent before you cut it all off and then lied to everybody about what it was?
in a lot of ways currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right.
et cetera?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few.
How could you trust anything he comes out and says now that he didn't even know one of the biggest claims he made right off the bat was a fucking lie?
people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But it seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at,
now, watch how concerned they are about the deficits. Now, remember how concerned they are about the deficit and spending. Okay? They're going to be super concerned about that while they're slashing all the fucking programs that aid Americans and people all over the fucking world. But how many times do you think they bring up the deficit when Trump gives out his new tax cuts? When the ones that are happening right now sunset, they expire. I wonder how concerned they'll be about the deficit then.
Well, if you look at, say Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blanks. You don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist.
Those are all fine things, right? Modernize the system. Put in payment codes. Right? Every payment has to have a memo describing what it's going for. Be able to pass a fucking audit. Those are all fine things. What's not fine is freezing everything. Throwing the fucking world into turmoil. Eliminating projects you don't even fucking understand and then lying about them to get people on your side for eliminating them.
Organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So
if you've ever tried to get the scenario they're setting up is not true on so many fucking levels. If you've ever tried to get paid from the government, it's not that fucking easy, right? It's not like you're just like, I'm going to complain if you don't send me $100,000, FEMA. I've been fighting with the VA for fucking 10 goddamn years.
Then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying...
I think he wears so much makeup because he looks sick. Look at his hand color. If his hand color was his face color, it would match his hair color. He would look like a corpse.
Look at each of these expenditures and
a hefty corpse, but still. Oh, have you guys seen this clip? We'll go back to that.
Does Trump really wear a girdle?
On certain days, yes.
Mm-hmm. What's that?
When he's feeling bloated.
Yeah.
He's an image-oriented guy. He's a television entertainer. He hates taking pictures of him from the side because he just looks too fat from the side. He likes to take pictures head on. He spends a lot of time on his hair. It's like a sort of a weave thing that he does up there. He's got a...
How can they keep arguing that he's bringing some type of masculinity back? The dude wears 4.5 pounds of makeup.
Certain orange war paint that he wears. He's got 2-inch heels, lifts in his shoes, even though he's a reasonably tall person. There's insecurity there. There's the hyper-masculinity is it.
And the way he leans so fucking far forward with those fucking lifts in his shoes.
Hell for how insecure the guy actually is. And so
somebody straps this grown-ass man in a girdle every day. There was also the rumors about him wearing diapers. Then all the fucking his supporters started wearing diapers.
What I don't understand, and I think people will write about 50 years from now, is that we just had a group of political cowards that couldn't stand up to the guy. I don't understand. What were they fearful of? And maybe it just was they want to stay in power more than they want to serve the public. Maybe that's what it is.
Does Trump
Somebody straps him up in a girdle every day. That's wild.
Say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay, they should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. That's a case where I think they're probably dead. It's my guess.
So the vast majority of these people that were way over this age, the reason they're still in the system, not receiving checks, in the system. I read this report the other day. It was like a few hundred people or right around 100, something like that. I think like 8 or 10 of them were still receiving the checks, a really low number. And they couldn't confirm that those checks had even been cashed, so they're probably not being cashed. And second of all, it's really hard to have 50 states that send in they just haven't had death records to clear them from the rolls. Not receiving checks, the vast majority of them not receiving checks, but they're still in the system because they haven't received a certified death certificate to pull them from the system. If they're in the system, who gives a fuck? As long as they're not receiving and cashing checks. But it's a huge talking point. It's a huge talking point where you come out and say, oh my God, this guy's 153 years old and he's still in the Social Security system. And then claim he gets a check as well.
Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately. Also, another crazy thing. So, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this obviously there needs to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire.
This is the craziest thing I've ever heard if he goes into this retirement spill. I saw a clip of it. Hold on, just say it. Let's see.
Get the retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine, we'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire.
Do you believe this? That the limiting factor on who can retire from the government is an elevator. There is a limestone mine in a place called, I think it's Boyers. Is that the place? Is that New York? Pennsylvania somewhere. And there is a mine where they store a bunch of paperwork and shit. For OPM, Office of Personnel Management. And you think the limiting factor is the elevator? You think that's what's going on?
Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what?
It has nothing. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about the elevator. If it's all being done manually, that's probably an issue, right? That's a lot of paperwork load that we could probably free up. But still, I think there probably needs to be a review process because a lot of times it's complicated when you work for the government because when you work for your company and you pay into retirement, when you leave that company and go to a different one, you can transfer your retirement or whatever, but you've separated. In the federal government, whether you're in the military or the civilian side or whatever, your retirement rolls from different places to other places, and you're still in the same retirement plan. So it gets complicated at times. There should probably be a review process. We could probably digitize that. I don't believe it's a fucking elevator. An elevator that's holding this up. First of all, because they have giant blast doors that you can drive into this motherfucker. So I don't think it's the elevator.
Instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the
and in several times. So in the 80s, the 90s, and even back in 2008, they've tried to digitize this system, and it took tens of millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars if you add all the attempts up, and failed miserably. Failed miserably. So if someone wants to make software, put out a bid on it and put software out there and have somebody make the software.
The goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say like how do we increase prosperity, is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles, and so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal.
Oh wait, I just found an article on it. Hold on. Tuesday afternoon, President Donald Trump and Elon Musk held a bizarre press conference in the Oval Office Tuesday afternoon. And during a long rambling section when Musk was talking about his work with Doge, he mentioned a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. That mine is actually a real thing, and it does, in fact, function pretty much like Musk described it. Musk does have a well-established track record of saying, sharing, and amplifying things that are misinformation, conspiracies, or lies, but he was mostly on the mark with these comments at Tuesday's presser when he was discussing reforms he thought should be made, and it includes his entire quote. In 2014, investigative journalist David Fahrenthold reported for the Washington Post about this facility, which he dubbed the sinkhole bureaucracy. Fahrenthold's article described the limestone mine in Boyers, Pennsylvania, as one of the weirdest workplaces in the U.S. government, both for where it is and what it does. The town of about 60 miles north of Pittsburgh has hosted this unusual government facility since the mid-20th century, and much of the technology used in the office seems to date to that era. At the time, Fahrenthold was reporting on this over a decade ago. There were 600 employees of the Office of Personnel Management that processed the retirement paperwork for the entire federal workforce in this facility that boasts 8 massive file caverns. The history of this underground office dates back to the 1950s when the federal government was looking for additional storage space and was alerted to this abandoned mine in Boyers, which had been bought by a private company and essentially turned into an enormous safe deposit box. Safe from the weather and the Soviets, kept naturally cool as a cave, the naturally preservative climate and secure location has continued to benefit to this day. The complex is owned by document company Iron Mountain, which also leases space in caverns adjacent to the OPM offices to be used for preserving old Hollywood movie reels and photographic archives. The issue isn't necessarily the mine itself or an elevator, but the fact that the core steps in the way of retirement papers are processed are still done manually, requiring paper printouts, actual signatures, and tens of thousands of file cabinets stuffed full of manila folders. James W. Morris Jr., who oversaw the office under the President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, was shocked when Fahrenthold told him that the system was still managed by shuffling dead trees around. Another decade in, and Morrison might have a stronger reaction than the wow he gave the Post in 2014. Fahrenthold's article describes a painstaking detail of the multi-step procedures for intake, processing, and approval of retirement paperwork, which repeatedly used real paper that has been internally moved by employees, taking long walks through mostly empty caverns hundreds of feet below the ground, then typing data into computers and printing out documents again. This leaves the federal retirement system only able to run at the speed of human fingers and feet, making federal retirees wait months before they can receive their full benefits. Past attempts to digitize the office in the 1980s and 1990s burned through tens of millions of dollars. Another attempt in 2008 took over $100 million to implement, but was then junked at just a few months after it failed on all but 5 of the 61 functions the software was supposed to handle. The account for Doge tweeted a photo of the mine Tuesday afternoon after the presser. Did someone miss the elevator part?
Everyone's very quiet, brother.
Fucking retard.
Your detractors, Mr. Musk,
What?
including a lot of Democrats,
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government
Why is this? It's so fucking unprofessional, dude. Like, what is going on here?
and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The public voted, we have a majority of the public voting for.
Here it is. You could drive a fucking truck into this motherfucker. We're not waiting on a one-person elevator, one piece of paper at a time.
For President Trump, who won the House, who won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform.
They won that. You won the presidency, won the House, and won the Senate on shit that you lied about, right? You explicitly had to come out and say, that's not our plan. No, we're not going to be doing that. We're not doing that. Then you won and immediately started doing that.
There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people they don't get what they voted for. But
The Trump supporters are too stupid, right? They were yelling about eggs and groceries and gas, and now that all that shit's going up and Trump's in office, they're like, we didn't vote for we'll pay more. That's because we're patriots. We wanted USAID shut down. They didn't even know what it was before it must started shutting it down. You could poll 100 of them, and I guarantee you one or less knew what the USAID was.
this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for. And that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify.
By the way, I've always called it USAID, and I guess I'm calling it USAID now because everybody else is saying that. Is that not common to call it USAID?
And excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that?
No, he's policing himself. He's saying, oh, if a conflict of interest is there, I'll just tell myself not to be influenced by a conflict of interest. He's 1,000% policing himself. Donald Trump doesn't even know what the fuck's going on. He just repeats what Musk tweets out.
There's accountability and transparency.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case that where an organization's been more transparent than the Doge organization.
What about the first places that you targeted on social media and in person? We're all coming after you for investigations and fucking malfeasance within your business, and you're recommending that inspector generals look into you. I don't know why I can't speak. Inspector generals look into you, like Starlink or SpaceX. What was that? Was that you? Was that be you? No biasy there, right? You were excluding yourself for a conflict of interest.
The kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not.
Have you guys, you want to talk about unprofessional, have you guys seen the Doge website? Now, it's not an official bureau. So the Doge website, they can't be a .gov site because they're not real, right? They're not an official government agency. So instead, they're dogegov.com. Dogegov.com. And the very first above the folds paragraph on it is to buy their meme coin. The very first thing that you can fucking click on, one of the only things that you can click on, is to buy their meme coin. $DogeGov meme coin. But wait, there's a really cool memes section. Hello, fellow youths. Want to check out some memes with me? Followed by another call to action to buy their meme coin, followed by Friends of Doge, where they list all their friends. A debt tracker, which just shows USA debt. It's not interactive. It doesn't do anything. It goes from February of 1960 to August of 2020, I guess. Wait, no, it goes all the way through 2024. January 2025. Okay. It's not labeled very well at the bottom. There's a spend tracker, which again, nothing to click on, nothing to change, nothing to do here. You can just relate outlays, on budget, benefit payments, CMS, Health and Human Services, Social Security, admin. Nothing. You can't see any details. You can't see any of these. Deficit. No detail, nothing to click on, no more information, nothing. Articles, where they write their own articles, like a blog post, with memes included. Pennies out, Chad's in. President Trump has told the Treasury to stop minting new pennies. The penny costs over 3 cents to make and cost U.S. taxpayers over $179 million in 2023. Which links back, if you click it, it links back to a Twitter post. We've got agent ID. Enter your agent name and sign up. Merch, a fucking merch shop on what they're trying to spin as like an official government website. A fucking merch shop. And the Doge clock. It's supposed to be keeping up with how much they've saved or something. It starts at 0 and goes to 2 trillion. Wild, huh? Made from 100% U.S. cotton and available in all sizes. Not made in the U.S. No tag information. Made from U.S. cotton means not made in the U.S. Or it would say made with and from. Nothing on the hats. 6-panel trigger cap with a mesh back, low profile Doge embroidery, much comfort, such classic. 60% cotton, 40% polyester. Hard buckram front panels, mesh back. Efficiently fits head with a circumference of 21 5/8 to 23 5/8. That's it. Yeah, they're not listing made in the United States, so I'm assuming it's not made in the United States. This is wild that they want people to look at this website. Like, how fucking old is Elon Musk? I can understand if this is like a YouTuber, right? If this is a YouTuber who was putting this together as like a joke in his 20s. This guy's fucking raping your government so he doesn't get investigated and his buddies can get a fucking tax break.
What I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which take a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But there's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself. For instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, that there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're.
So, okay. So if you sign up for their agent ID, you get an ID card. This is mine. Special. Let me zoom in for you. So, Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. There's my profile picture. This certifies that the signature and photograph hereon is appointed Special Agent Byrd of the hashtag GogeGov United States Department of Government Efficiency. You get a badge, which is basically the same thing, with some fine print down here at the bottom. This certifies the signature and photograph is appointed Special Agent of the Department of Government Efficiency of the United States of America and is granted full access to government records, budget reports. How is this not illegal? Like, I know this is a joke, but how the fuck can you put this out there? Government records, budget reports, expenditure reviews necessary for executing your mission. You are empowered to initiate budgetary audits, recommend cost-saving measures, and collaborate with federal departments to enforce efficient financial management. Never expires. And some type of agreement. Deny. I got kicked out. I clicked deny on the agreement, got kicked out. A pseudo-government entity providing randos with a fake ID. Yeah, absolutely. It's weird. Like, if you went to the FBI and they printed out a badge that said that you had the power to arrest, investigate, fucking whatever, and it was like, even though it was like a joke, it still wouldn't be appropriate.
Trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And we thought that we would.
You can see if it's benefiting my company or not. Like when I pressured the head of the FAA that called for me to be investigated after my rocket blew up, when I pressured him into quitting, you can see if that benefits my company or not. Or when USAID wanted me investigated for my Starlink stuff over disaster areas and war zones, and wanted me investigated, and we shut the whole system down. You can see if that benefits one of my companies or not. It does, you stupid fuck. Would we allow anybody else to just be like, hey, look, just watch. Just watch and see if I'm violating anything. And that's how we keep checks and balances. Inspector generals, fuck them. Police department, fuck it. Courts, fuck it. You guys just watch what I do. And if you think it benefits me, tell somebody. Who? Who do we tell?
Not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also.
Again, policing yourself. This isn't an argument. Oh, well, he's directly under me, so I'm making sure there's no conflict of interest. No, we need a different branch to do that. That's how it works.
He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use. But in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned
He's extra orange when he puts on his war paint.
on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a three-month contract. Now, normally if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. Yeah. But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months, it's
I know someone saw the word Jeet on that shirt. I know that sounds like a slur or like a racial thing or something. I don't know. It makes me think of a minority group or some shit, but it's actually, they use it in crypto as an acronym, like the HODL, whatever it is. And G is to short a short in a meme coin. It stands for just exit early trader or something like that. The same one that they use for that. What's the other one? FUD. FUD is when you're like telling somebody, hey, this is a bad investment. You're making FUD.
To consult, here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe. Yeah. It could be corruption. It could be deals made on both sides, where
Elon Musk directly benefits from all of this. He is a welfare queen. None of his companies would work without the gigantic U.S. government spending that goes into his shit.
I get some money. He kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts, so he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military, a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to do, among other things.
You remember when he looked at this painting over here of Jackson, and he's like, well, look at that. That's a good one. That guy. That's a good one there. That was a good one. You guys remember that one? Oh, and George Washington back there.
Things, fines, all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing.
Wrong. This is a lie. Again, these are lies. So the entire city of New York City, during a migrant crisis, this huge influx of migrants there, were paid this money. They've only made one draw, so they didn't even actually get that much. They got a half of it or somewhere around there. And it was to build shelter and housing. Some people, for a limited amount of time, had to be put up in vacant hotel rooms because they couldn't get the housing built quick enough. But to say $59 million went to a luxury hotel is a lie. It's a lie. 100% a fucking lie.
Migrants, illegal migrants, all illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket. Well, if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, okay, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half.
Competence and caring. He cares. If he cared, he would actually be talking about where this money goes, and we would have a conversation about it. Like, okay, this money, not all $59 million, but let's say 19 or 20 million or whatever, has already been paid out to New York City. They're waiting on another draw, and it was used for migrant housing. Now, we couldn't keep up with the migrant crisis. We couldn't keep up with the housing. There were some migrants who had to be put in hotel rooms, whatever was vacant. We had to put them up there short term, quickly. We had to put them somewhere rather than sleeping on the streets. We need to talk about that. Maybe we have some type of housing, or we're able to build housing faster, or we're able to bid rates. I don't know. But to just say $59 million went to a luxury hotel for migrants is a fucking lie. And these goddamn retards on social media that believe it and repeat it, you can't tell them anything else. That's all they want to say.
And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there.
Might as well camp out in your ass? Is that what he just said? You might as well camp out there in your ass?
Okay, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's
That's a weird way to say it.
It's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion. And then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3%, 4%, maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that?
God, Trump hates fucking kids, dude.
For the average American.
We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not
simple stuff.
complicated.
It's
a
like
lot of work. Yeah.
You can't believe it. A lot of work. A lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking about. You know, normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good, and you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. You know, the public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years. This has gone on. Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that Doge cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the plan?
I really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote. Although there'll be some people that would.
Congress has a purse, you retard.
And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found.
Have you guys, I don't know if you ever watched the videos like I share on Discord and Telegram, but you guys know who Curtis Yarvin is, this nut job? I'm honestly starting to believe that people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, all the tech bros believe in his system. The more I hear him talk about the ideal America or the ideal situation or whatever you want to call it, I think they believe this guy's teachings, which are fucking wild if you haven't looked into it. He wrote a book, I think, called The Dark Enlightenment. He basically says that, here, I'll read it. Center to Nick Land's ideas is a belief in freedom's incompatibility with democracy. We're talking about, hold on. Yarvin's theories elaborated and expanded on philosopher Nick Land. Okay. Freedom's incompatibility with democracy. Land drew inspiration from libertarians such as Peter Thiel, as indicated in his essay, The Dark Enlightenment. The Dark Enlightenment has been described by journalists and commentators as the alt-right and neo-fascist. A 2016 article in New York Magazine notes that neo-reaction has a number of different strains, but perhaps the most important is a form of post-libertarian futurism that, realizing that libertarians aren't likely to win any elections, argues against democracy in favor of authoritarian forms of government. Andy Beckett stated that NRX supporters believe in the replacement of modern nation states, democracy, and government with bureaucracies by authoritarian city-states, which on neo-reaction blogs sounds as much like idealized medieval kingdoms as they do modern enclaves such as Singapore. The modern solution devised by Yarvin in a formalist manifesto advocates for a form of neo-cameralism in which small authoritarian government corporations coexist with each other. He claims freedom under the system would be guaranteed by the ability to vote with your feet. So if you don't like, they break up the United States in these small like city states that are run like corporations, and if you don't like the way yours is run, leave. J.D. Vance too, you're right. Whereby residents could leave for another government corporation if they felt it would provide a higher quality of life, thus forcing competition. Nick Land reiterates this with the political idea of no voice, free exit. If GovCorp doesn't deliver acceptable values for its taxes, sovereign rent, that they can notify its customer service function and, if necessary, take their custom elsewhere. GovCorp would concentrate upon running an efficient, attractive, vital, clean, and secure country of a kind that is able to draw customers. Anna Pinto describes the political ideology of the GovCorp model as a form of classical libertarianism. They do not want to limit the power of the state. They want to privatize it. According to criminal justice professor George Michael, neo-reaction seeks to save its ideal of the Western civilization through the adoption of monarchs or CEOs as a model of government to replace democracy. It also embraces accelerationism, by which the creation and promotion of societal crises is hastened to the adoption of neo-reactive states. And some of the craziest things, so basically like these tech bro guys are like in charge of their own little city-state governments. You don't like it, you can fucking leave. And some of the craziest stuff about this, when they were talked about like the old, the elderly, the infirm, people that wouldn't be useful in these city states, right? They're not useful at this point. They've had all their use, or maybe they were born with a disability or whatever. Some people suggest using them. This guy, the Yarvin guy, suggests using them as biofuel. Or suggest they'll be in a class so downtrodden that they don't even get a vote, they don't get a say, they don't get to speak up. Or biofuel. Shit is wild, dude. You need to check into Curtis Yarvin, and he's good friends with all these people. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, JD Vance. They're all in a club that you're not invited into.
Billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply
I always abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So,
Trump, you had fucking 100 years to cover up your books and failed.
Yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts.
It's really dark. It's really fucked up and really dark. The guy's name is Curtis Yarvin, Yarvin, Yarvin. And basically democracy's done. And one of their tenets is we need to go ahead and break it. Like, we don't need to wait for like democracy to fall out and this experiment we call the United States to fuck over, right? Yeah, Praxis is his techocracy, online techocracy. But we don't need to wait for, it's praxisnation.com. I'll show you the website. We don't need to wait for this democracy to decline to a point to where people are ready to rise up. We need to hasten it. We need to break the system. We need to cause crisis. We need to go ahead and shut down the system, fuck it up, make it unbearable, unlivable. People need to die and struggle and be ready to be done with this so we can have them support our idea of this techocracy. So this is the praxisnation.com. And it says there's 87,000 Praxins, $1 billion of value of Praxin-founded companies. This Praxis is the world's first sovereign network, a global community developing a shared culture, institutions, and infrastructure. Praxis is a home for the brave who strive for virtue and wisdom. Our purpose is to restore Western civilization and pursue our ultimate destiny of life among the stars. By the way, this preserved Western civilization is almost always a dog whistle for like, hey, are you alt-right? Almost always. Submit the form below to join Praxis as a nomad, the initiatory role within our community. Nomads are considered for steel visa citizenship based on their commitment, values, and contributions. Upon form submission, you will be invited to join the Praxis Discord server as a nomad where you can engage with our citizens, learn about upcoming events, and explore ways to contribute to the nation. Shit's wild, dude. You just have to look into it. They are some wild motherfuckers out here. Network states are supercharged internet communities that seek statehood. They are seeking statehood. That's one of their goals. They don't want to just be online. They're seeking statehood. Building economies, institutions, culture, and even cities. While early crypto adoption relied on speculative investment, future growth lies in practical applications. where network states use on-chain infrastructure to manage property, currency, contracts, and more. The next wave of crypto adoption on the path to crypto civilization requires crypto infrastructures integration into the core functions of society. Network states provide the path. Acceleration zones. Like, this shit's wild, dude. You just have to look into it. It's really dark, really fucked up. This blonde politics or something like that on YouTube, she made a video that I shared in the Discord and on Telegram, and she made it right after the election, and people are like, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're crazy, you can't do this, they're not going to do this, and now people are coming back to that video like, oh, goddamn, you called it. Like, it's wild the way people are changing their tune all of a sudden.
And we'll appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go...
You don't have to appeal. This is a lie. You're going to court with them in 2 weeks anyways. Exactly 2 weeks from the day the order was.
To a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation. We have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlement.
Yeah. Leave the sins of the past behind. We shouldn't be thinking of the word dictator as a bad word. No more than the word man is a bad word, and you know, a man could be a serial killer.
Programs are actually foreign fraud rings that are operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big numbers. We're talking about $100 to $200 billion a year. Sure. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud.
Here we go. This is his big answer to him lying about everything. Well, I'm going to get some stuff wrong.
That you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique and the program.
And this isn't true either. That's just the only place that we can find on the map that we've ever sent money to for condoms. It wasn't 50 million. We don't have a record of $50 million worth of condoms going to Gaza province and Mozambique. We just know that in Africa, there is a Gaza province, and we do distribute condoms there for AIDS is rampant in Africa, right? And we have paid for condoms there. Not 50 million. We don't know that for sure. It's not written on paper, right? That's just, people are just trying to rationalize the crazy fucking shit he said, and they're like, this might be an answer. We don't know. But here's his answer to it.
Was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes...
And Trump called it $100 million and said they were building condom bombs with it. We're paying them to build condom bombs.
Sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistake.
Bro, you're shutting down programs, telling your followers what they want to hear, and you're like, I'm going to say some stuff. I'm going to be wrong. Nobody's perfect. Maybe you shouldn't shut down the programs until you know what the fuck they are.
I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be.
The reason he picked this one to share specifically on Twitter is because he knew it would make Trump's voters irate. Whether it was true or not, they didn't fucking care. If I share this, they'll be mad. They'll support me more. That's all that matters.
Really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms.
This administration, I don't know if you guys know this. This administration is so incapable of admitting that they've made a mistake that they accidentally put the interim director of the FBI as the wrong fucking guy, and they won't admit they made a mistake, so they're just letting him be the director. They literally put out on the website the wrong guy that they wanted to be the interim director of the FBI. And they can't admit they made a mistake. So they're like, oh, he's just director. But he fucking hates Trump. So when Trump wants to get rid of every FBI agent that worked on any Jan 6 cases, he's like, no, don't tell him you worked on the case. Fuck that. Don't tell him that. You can't be fired for doing your job. And they've left it that way. Look, accidental FBI chief builds a following as agency's defender. Brian Driscoll, who they call Driz, was accidentally catapulted into the acting director's chair on January 20th and has defended the Bureau from the potential of mass firings inspiring memes and satirical clips. Brian Driscoll, the acting FBI director, has become an improbable symbol of the crime resistance towards the Justice Department campaign to single out FBI employees who investigated the J6 riot. To start, Mr. Driscoll's appointment was an accident. Shortly after President Trump's inauguration, the White House identified the wrong agent as the acting director on its website and never corrected the mistake. He was accidentally promoted to director of the FBI, and because they don't want to say, oh, that was a misprint, he's still the director today. Even if he was not meant to be leading the agency, he has defended the rank and file. His refusal at the time to furnish the names of employees as top Justice Department officials desired, and his insistence that a formal review process be put in place has spurred widespread support for Mr. Driscoll. They went and asked the guy that Trump had said he wanted to be the director, and they're like, weren't you supposed to be the interim director? And he's like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. Looks like they typed in the wrong name. They cannot admit when they fuck up.
Think about it. But if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Well, we didn't. So you're still lying about it.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID
His son has an unpronounceable symbol as his fucking name.
has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention.
Left that, you said?
Yes, correct.
HIV prevention. That's the condoms, you fucking retard.
And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So
Do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
So we're turning off feeding hungry people, starving people, people dying, needing medical treatment, Meals on Wheels, but we'll fix it. How about you just don't turn off those programs? Just don't turn off those programs.
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say, what does the...
By the way, I think it was at Virginia. there is a bill that has already passed the House, I think, that could potentially prohibit you from voting if you got married and changed your name. If you're going to use a driver's license and it doesn't conform to this new ID standard that's coming out, you also have to have your birth certificate with your driver's license to vote, and both those have to match. Or a passport, which a large percentage of the American population doesn't have a passport. Or like a fucking letter from your like local sheriff or some shit. It's fucking wild. I think it's called the SAVE Act. It seems pretty crazy. It seems like overkill. Beyond the impact on voter registration methods, the SAVE Act would exclude millions of eligible American citizens who do not have ready access to the documentation it requires. According to the survey conducted through the Brennan Center and partners, more than 9% of Americans voting age citizens, or 21.3 million people, don't have a passport, birth certificate, or naturalization papers readily available. Voters of color, voters who change their names, most notably married women, and younger voters would be most significantly affected. It's called the SAVE Act. And they're voting on it right now. You should probably let whoever your representative or whoever your congresspeople are know that this is not good for America.
And for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I just have to follow up to the Pentagon.
Also, if you move, you may not be able to vote. Right now, they automatically update your shit when you put in, like, when you go, like, to the Postal Service or update your address, forward your mail and shit, and move. That's cut out. Change your driver's license address online. You might not be able to vote because you didn't do it in person. You need a passport or birth certificate. Shit's getting fucking crazy.
On contracts, if you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that a conflict?
They also want to do away with, now you go to the DMV, you can check the box to automatically register to vote. That's gone.
And are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the
okay.
Contract.
Everything SpaceX has ever done has been to look out for the taxpayer. Even though it's a private company that's made him extremely wealthy, every choice they've made is for the taxpayer. That's a lie. That wouldn't be a private company then. Because the best move for the taxpayer is for Elon Musk to never fucking take a salary. For all of his scientists to be paid minimum wage. That's the best move for the taxpayer.
And say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that
every contract he's ever written is looking out for the taxpayer. That's a fucking lie. It can't be a public company making profit and be in the best interest of the taxpayer.
that you might
That's why we federalize so many fucking things.
look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or...
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting... Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his...
It's a weird fucking distraction.
Fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's been hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. The stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass.
Yeah, the kid's a prop, but I also think he'll push that kid to have some type of social media influence as quickly as possible.
Audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. We have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge.
This whole fucking press conference is from Bizarro World.
And the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent.
This is the only kid that he pretends to like.
But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID.
He's got one kid that's trans. He doesn't do anything with that kid.
That's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are.
You might have the right to look and see, but you don't have the right to go shutter everything and shut it down just because you don't like it, when there's tons of fucking legitimate programs there.
Honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying.
Dude, did you see him talking today? So he kind of left it up in the air about when he first talked about the people that are in Gaza, moving them somewhere and then possibly they come back or whatever. Now he's saying they'll have no right to come back. Like, no, it's just done. Like, I knew that was always his plan, but he's actually physically saying the words that they have no right to come back to their fucking country after it's rebuilt. That's wild.
How can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
On the buyout program, can you personally guarantee that?
Which one?
The buyout program, the offer to federal workers.
Yeah, Trump says, hold on just a quick, and we'll finish this. Asked whether Palestinians would be allowed to return to Gaza under his plan. U.S. president says no, they would not. United States President Donald Trump, proposal for mass displacement in Gaza does not include a right of return for Palestinians in the enclave. In an interview with Fox News, partially aired Monday, Trump also reiterated his push to quote, own Gaza. Asked whether Palestinians would be allowed to return to the territory under his plan, Trump said no, they would not. The U.S. president plan to empty Gaza of its population has been forcibly rejected across the Middle East, including Egypt and Jordan, the main countries that Trump says he wants to host the displaced Palestinians. Rights groups have also condemned the push, saying it would amount to ethnic cleansing and concentration. Trump's assertion that he is seeking the permanent displacement of people in Gaza appears to contradict recent comments by his aides who said that the enclave's residents would be able to return after the area is rebuilt. Last week, White House spokesman Carolyn Leavitt said people in Gaza would be temporarily relocated. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also said that the placement of the Palestinians in Gaza would be interim and residents would be able to move back in after reconstruction. In his Fox News interview, Trump suggested that the U.S. would leverage its aid to Jordan and Egypt to get the two countries to take in displaced Palestinians. I think I could make a deal with Jordan. I think I could make a deal with Egypt. You know, we give them billions and billions of dollars a year. He added that Palestinians would live in beautiful communities away from Gaza. In the meantime, I would own this. I think of it as a real estate development for the future, he said. The plan for the U.S. to take over Gaza has raised eyebrows across the world. Washington has no legal claim to the territory. The United Nations Charter prohibits the acquisition of land by force. According to the health minister in Gaza, Israel's U.S.-backed war on the enclave has killed more than 48,000 Palestinians. The Gaza government media office put the death toll at more than 61,000, including thousands of missing people who are presumed dead. The Israeli offensive has turned much of Gaza into rubble, but the territory's residents have pledged to remain steadfast in their land. Local authorities have been pleading for tents and mobile homes to shelter people until reconstruction begins, accusing Israel of hindering the aid in violation of the ceasefire agreement. Last week, Amnesty International warned that systemic efforts to expel Palestinians in Gaza could constitute a crime against humanity. Amnesty International also warns against the misuse of desperately needed humanitarian aid and reconstruction as bargaining chip or as means to coerce Palestinians in Gaza into leaving. No state is entitled to treat protected population living under occupation as pawns in geopolitical chess games. In 1994, UN experts defined ethnic cleansing as purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographical areas. So just moving them by force is a fucking war crime.
Can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through September?
They'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend, and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way.
That's not what the court case is about. The court case is about protecting people's personal, private information and stuff that's in place there already from like these random fucking 20-year-olds running around with Elon Musk. So there's a stay put in place, an emergency stay, saying that there could be damages between now and when we go to court. So for now, this this order stops everything, right? It's emergency until you go to court and prove that these claims are not valid, or prove that you're going to protect the information, or prove something. But it's just in place temporarily. Same thing with like you get a restraining order. That's the example I used the other night. You go to the sheriff's department to get a TRO, and you tell him, hey, he's beating the hell out of me. Your husband's not there. He doesn't get to testify. He doesn't get to say, no, I didn't. This didn't happen. Here's the evidence. You just get it in place for an emergency, and because there's damage that could be done, and then within 2 weeks, you go to court and plead your case.
You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. At the White House tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to him.
Did you guys get anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually. I hope that's the beginning of a relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop being killed. They've lost millions of people. They lost In terms of
I'm gonna have to start doing longer shows. There's just too much to fucking cover. I need to come on earlier and stay like we usually do. We got through one video and all these fucking claims in it. That was it.
5 million soldiers in a short period of time. We got to stop that war. And I'm interested primarily from the standpoint of death. We're losing all those soldiers. And they're not American soldiers. They're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. But you're probably talking about 1.5 million. I think we got to bring that one to an end. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's go. Thank you.
10 o'clock.
Jesus Christ, is wild. That's what's going on right now, guys. In case you're curious, that's what's happening in the U.S. Everything fucking sucks. Oh, you guys know the woman from Pakistan?
No one has had a worse day than J.D. Vance. First, the president says he's not the successor to run for president in 2028. And then the Pope writes an entire letter talking about what a bad Catholic he is.
How J.D. Vance isn't a real Catholic.
Not a good day to be J.D.
The Pope put out a letter saying that J.D. Vance wasn't a real Catholic. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. How bad was it?
Great gentleman, a great leader, and does a fantastic job in his country. His son, we're lucky enough to have his handsome son with us today, so it's good to see you again. We've had some quick discussions just now, and we're going to have some longer discussions after this. And the relationship with Jordan has been very strong, has been with me, and I really
I was going to say the Pope is a DEI hire.
With the country, but I think I've been closer than other presidents to Jordan and what Jordan represents, and it's an honor to have you and your son with us today. And if you'd like to say a few words, and thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you very much for having us, and so short after your inauguration, I think just as a testament to what you said is a special relationship between our two countries and the personal relationship of friendship and trust between the two of us. Mr. President, I truly believe that with all the challenges that we have in the Middle East, that I finally see somebody that can take us across the finish line to bring stability, peace, and prosperity to all of us in the region. And it is, I think, our collective responsibility in the Middle East to continue to work with you, to support you, to achieve those lofty goals. So I'm very delighted to be here, and as you said, sir, we've got some very interesting discussions ahead.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, many people in the region, especially Jordan, are worried about the annexation of the West Bank. Will you give His Majesty the King guarantee that you won't allow Israel to annex the West Bank? And how are you going to...
I think that's going to work out very well. That's not really what we're talking about today. I think...
Are you going to annex the West Bank? I think it's going to work out well.
It's something that's going to work out automatically, and it's in good shape. And we discuss it, and other people have discussed it with us and with me. That's going to work out. West Bank is going to work out very well.
Mr. President, why should the king...
Would you assure people that you're not going to let Israel annex the West Bank? That's going to work out well.
Take in the Palestinian people? He's made clear he doesn't want to.
Well, I don't know, but he may
Evil
just
poo.
something to say because we discussed just briefly. I think maybe you want to say it now, or
Well, Mr. President.
well, I don't know. Discussed it with us and with me. That's going to work out. West Bank is going to work out very well.
Mr. President, why should the king take in the Palestinian people? He's made clear he doesn't want to.
Well, I don't know, but he may have just something to say because we discussed just briefly. I think maybe you want to say it
Oh,
now,
no.
or-
He's putting him on the spot.
Well, Mr. President, I think we have to keep in mind that there is a plan from Egypt and the Arab countries. We're being invited by Mohammed bin Salman to discussions in Riyadh. I think the point is how do we make this work in a way that is good for everybody? Right. Obviously, we have to look at the best interests of the United States, of the people in the region, especially to my people of Jordan.
How can you make an argument that it has to work out best for the people of the United States? It's not our land. We don't own it. How can you make an argument? What the fuck?
And we're going to have some interesting discussions today. I think one of the things that we can do right away is take 2,000 children that are either cancer children or in very ill state to Jordan as quickly as possible, and then wait for, I think, the Egyptians to present their plan on how we can work with the president to work on Gaza.
So he's not saying shit.
I want to tell you. Excuse me, wait, just please. I didn't know that, but you just said 2,000 children with cancer or other problems, and that's really a beautiful gesture. That's really good, and we appreciate it. And we'll be working on the rest with Egypt. I think you're going to see some great progress. I think with Jordan, you're going to see some great progress. 3 of us, and we'll have some others helping, and we're going to have some others at a very high level.
You know, like 40% of his supporters think that he's just lying to negotiate. He's just lying, saying we're going to get rid of them all. We're going to build a fucking Riviera there.
Helping, and the whole thing will come. It's not a complex thing to do.
They're taking 2,000, okay? There are 2 million people that live in the Gaza Strip. 2 million.
With the United States being in control of that piece of land, a fairly large piece of land, you can have stability in the Middle East for the first time. And the Palestinians, or the people that live now in Gaza, will be living beautifully in another location. They're going to be living safely. They're not going to be killed, murdered, and having to leave every 10 years, because I've been watching this for so many years. It's nothing but trouble. Everyone's being killed. They're being robbed. It's like living in hell. And they're going to end up having a great home, great families that don't have to get mugged and killed and beaten up and harassed by Hamas and everybody else. And I know we'll be able to work something. And what you just said about the 2,000 is fantastic. That's so beautiful. It's music to my ears. But we're going to be able to work something, and I know we'll be able to work something also with I believe, not 100%, but 99%. We're going to work out something with Egypt.
But Mr. President, during your election campaign,
I like the idea. So a TikToker, I think it was Politics Girl or whatever, she was like, look, left and right, prominent people, right? Speakers, the people at the top echelon of left and right politics need to come together, whether it's fucking Obama and Kamala and fucking Mike Pence and the people at the fucking top that know that they've ran for president, they've served at the highest levels, they've been in the media, they've been in the spotlight. They need to come together and tell people like this isn't fucking right. They need to stand up to Trump. And they need to get that momentum behind them, because enough people, like, you may hate fucking Kamala Harris, but there's probably somebody on the right that would get your attention and be like, yeah, he is making sense. They need to come together and organize the people under this isn't what he's doing isn't fucking right. He's well outside the bounds of what he's allowed to do as a president. He's talking even crazier shit about ignoring the fucking courts, the only check that they have on him, right, short of impeachment. They need to come together and put this together and stand up.
Mr. President, how is the U.S. going to own Gaza? Your White House has made...
I don't think it just works if like Obama or Biden or Kamala Harris or fucking Mike Pence or Rand Paul or whoever the fuck you want to name come together. But I think it might work if a coalition of people come together from both sides of the aisle that aren't afraid of getting reelected or Elon Musk campaigning against them with his money and blah, blah, blah. They come together, maybe.
Clear, taxpayer dollars won't be used for this. So what money are you going to use to buy Gaza?
We're not going to buy anything. We're going to have it, and we're going to keep it, and we're going to make sure that there's going to be
He plans on taking it by force. He's not buying anything. He just said that.
peace, and there's not going to be any problem, and nobody's going to question it. And we're going to run it very properly, and eventually we'll have economic development at a very large scale, maybe the largest scale on that site. And we'll have lots of good things built there, including hotels and office buildings and housing and other things. And we'll make that site into what it should be. And the people from Gaza who wouldn't be able to be there for years, because you're talking about just to get it and prepare it and to take care of all of the problems that currently it has, as you know, tunnels, and people are in those tunnels. And you have some good people and some bad people, and you may have hostages right now. You know, you have the hostages possibly there. They don't know where they are. And, you know, I have a Saturday deadline, and I don't think they're going to make the deadline personally. I think they want to play tough guy, but we'll see how tough they are. But it's going to be a wonderful thing. It's going to be wonderful for the Middle East. I think it'll turn the Middle East. I think you're going to have peace in the Middle East. You're going to eventually have peace in the Middle East.
Couldn't this deadline risk undermining the talks that you're having with the King today, and risk the kind of wider peace that you're trying to?
Because we're not talking about a big situation. We're talking about something that can go very quickly. We're talking about it's going to go quickly. It's not going to take a long time. Okay, that's not going to take a long time.
It's crazy.
You know what a bully is, right? You know the bully. I've always, and I found it throughout my life. A bully is the weakest person.
I agree, but the problem is you don't realize that you're the bully in almost every situation. You are the bully.
And they're bullies. Hamas is bullies. The weakest people are bullies. You know that, right? All right, go ahead.
Mr. President, you were saying that Palestinians will live somewhere else safe. Where exactly do you want them to live?
Well, it's not where I want them to live. It's going to be where we ultimately choose as a group. And
not where I want them to live, where we choose they live without their input.
I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Jordan. I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Egypt. We may have someplace else, but I think when we finish our talks, we'll have a place where they're going to live very happily and very safely. And, don't forget, they only want to be on the Gaza Strip because they don't know anything else. They never had an alternative. And they don't want to be in the Gaza Strip, but they have no choice. They have to be. And they're being killed there at levels that nobody's ever seen. No place in the world is as dangerous as the Gaza Strip. They don't want to be there. They have no alternative. When they have an alternative, not one person will want to stay where they are. Nobody wants to stay there. They're living in hell. It's a death trap.
Mr. President, how do you know that the Palestinians don't want to leave their land? Some people say this is ethnic cleansing. You won't be able to force them to leave their land.
We're moving them to a beautiful location where they have new homes, where they can live safely, where they'll have doctors and medical and all of those things. And I think it's going to be great. Yeah, any questions?
King Abdullah, what do you think about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip? Do you want to see the U.S. own the Gaza Strip?
Well, I think, as I said earlier, the president is looking at Egypt coming to present their plan. As I said, we will be in Saudi Arabia.
He doesn't want to fucking piss him off right now.
To discuss how we can work with the president and with the United States. So I think let's wait until the Egyptians can come and present to the president and not get ahead of ourselves.
And is there a parcel of land in Jordan that you're willing to have Palestinians?
Well, I think what we said, I have to look at the best interests of my country. I think the president is very happy that we do this thing with 2,000 children as quickly as possible. And again, I believe that the president is looking forward to getting a group of us Arabs here to discuss the overall plan.
And last question, the 2,000 children, are those from the Gaza Strip?
Absolutely, from the Gaza Strip.
Are you willing to change your mind, Mr.
That's
President?
from the Gaza Strip, the 2,000.
Are you willing to change your mind if you hear the Egyptian and the Arab plan end of the month? If they present you something different, are you open to
I think
other plans?
we sort of have gone down the line. We know pretty much what is going to be presented. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be magnificent for the Palestinians. They're going to be in love with it. I did very well with real estate. I can tell you about real estate. They're going to be in love with it.
But Mr. President, does it concern you that moving 2 million people from there?
It's a very small number of people relative to other things that have taken place over the decades and centuries.
Yeah, like the Holocaust.
It's a very small number of people. And they're living a terrible life. Look at the way they're living now. Nobody's living like that in the entire world. They're living under buildings that are mostly fallen down and will continue to fall down. And they're living under. People are being killed every day. The conditions are horrible. There are no conditions anywhere in the world that are worse than the Gaza Strip right now.
But don't you have concern that you can destabilize Jordan and
You said all hell will break out if all the hostages are not released on Saturday. What did you mean by that? And are you encouraging Netanyahu to walk away from this deal? Have you talked about this with him?
So I've looked at at the condition of people coming out of the hostage situation, and it's horrible. I looked at the before and after yesterday. 3 young men. One is dead now, as you know. The older gentleman who died, which everybody said he was alive and well, he's dead. But the 3 young men, and I looked at them from a short while ago, and I looked at them now. They're emaciated. They look like Holocaust survivors.
Emaciated?
They looked. They'll get better, but they're in rough shape. They were treated really badly.
2 million's not a lot. I heard one time. This guy removed 6 million. I don't remember his name. You guys, 2 million's not that much.
We've heard things from them since, and I think the reason that Hamas is playing so cute is because they saw the reaction to these 3 people that came out, and the other ones. Look, the one young lady had her hand blown off practically, and they were not in great shape either. But she's missing her fingers and a big part of her hand. You know what she did? She was stopping a bullet that was aimed at her. She went like that, and it blew off her hand. Now, I think they want time because I think the people that they have living are in such bad shape because they're sending the most healthy people out because they don't want to send the least healthy people out. And there was an uproar when they saw the people from yesterday. So these people are, so I don't want to do 2 and then we do another 2 in another week and then we do 4 in 3 weeks. No. They either have them out by Saturday at 12.
We could take them from the place they're out right now and then find a small piece of Jordan and cram them in there to where they're more concentrated in that area. It'd be like a wilderness adventure, like camping or something, right? They'll have tents. They'll be concentrated, and they'll just camp under the stars.
O'clock or all bets are off.
Mr. President,
would you still consider withholding aid to those countries if they don't accept your plans to accept?
Well, I don't want to say that because we've had such a good relationship and we're doing so well just in the short time that we've been talking. I mean, the king just made a statement. I didn't ask him to do that, about literally saving 2,000 young children from the Gaza Strip. We didn't know about that. You didn't know about that. Nobody did except for the king and his son. I assume you told your son, right? And I just thought it was great. No, I think we'll do something. I don't have to threaten with money. We contribute a lot of money to Jordan and to Egypt, by the way, a lot, to both. But I don't have to threaten that. I think we're above that. I do believe we're above that. So.
Would you consider other countries, not Jordan and Egypt? There was talks about Indonesia, Albania, other places.
Yeah, sure. And we have other countries that want to get involved. We have a lot of people that want to get involved. There's a great sense of wanting to help the Palestinians. There's a lot of good countries out there, people that rule those countries with big hearts, and this gentleman is at the top.
I mean, it doesn't get the attention it does, but there was protests at was it this weekend at every state capital?
The list.
And if they don't want to leave, how are you going to force them, Mr. President?
Oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be very happy.
Your Majesty, should we expect that the Jordanian response would be part of a coordinated Arab response?
The response will be from a multitude of countries, Arab, international. I know the Europeans want to step in. And again, we'll probably have to look to the help of the United States to make sure that COGAT, which is the clearing agency on the Israeli side, makes this as efficient as possible. Because 2,000 kids, the best way to get to them is by helicopters and get them straight to our institutions. I also believe that quite a few countries would also probably like to take some of those kids and have them treated in their hospitals. So we also launched this ASAP.
Yes, and that's right. This should have been done by the Biden administration, but, they didn't do anything. They didn't know what the hell they were doing.
The quote from the Jordan president says, "I stress that my foremost commitment is to Jordan, to its stability, and to the well-being of Jordanians. I reiterated Jordan's steadfast opposition against the displacement of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. This is a unified Arab position." But he's weak as fuck up here.
So this should have been done by the Biden administration. This should have never happened because October 7th would have never happened. If I were president, zero chance of happening. You wouldn't have had that whole mess where the Middle East got blown up, and you wouldn't have had Ukraine and Russia fighting. That would have never happened.
That's what he put on X after he left this meeting. That's what he said on Twitter after he left this meeting. Of course he did.
And by the way, we're making good progress there, I think. I really think we're making some very good progress.
Mr. President, you said before that the U.S. would buy Gaza, and today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What is that?
There's no reason to buy.
There's nothing to buy. There's nothing there. We'll move everybody there, then it'll be empty, and then we'll put troops there so nobody can take it from us, and then they'll be on their camping adventure.
There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it could be a diamond. It could be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East. And you're going to have peace. It's going to bring peace in the Middle East. Gaza, the way it is right now, every 10 years you're going to have the same thing happening. I've watched it so long, all the death and destruction of Gaza. The civilization's been wiped out in Gaza. No, it's going to be a tremendous thing. It's fronting on the sea. It's going to be a great economic development job. It's going to put people to work, a lot of people to work. And those people are all going to be from the Middle East.
When Trump says things like he wants to debank America and talking about removing, laws and banking controls and regulations off the banks, do you think that benefits regular people in any way? Like, I see somebody over here arguing like, yeah, it's time to let the banks do their jobs. Do you think that's gonna help you in any way? I know it'll help banks. They're going to make more money. Do you think that'll help you in any way? That's crazy. What are you arguing for?
Just to follow up with one on that for King Abdullah, can you clarify again, sir, how do you feel about the U.S. taking Gaza, as the president said?
Well, again, this is something that we, as Arabs, will be coming to the United States with something that we're going to talk about later to discuss all these options.
And Mr. President, take it under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
And Mr. President, would you seek to personally develop
Under what authority? U.S. authority.
property in Gaza after this happens?
No, I've had a great career in real estate.
Mr. President,
You know, when you've done what I've done in the last number of years, including the 4 years that we should have been doing something else, frankly, because people see that now for sure. But when you've done what I've done, you can just do more good for people when you're president. When you're president, we can do things. This is all things that should have been done, but actually things that shouldn't have had to be done. Gaza, absolutely, it would have been so great if the Biden administration would have started this. But actually, in all fairness to them, it was. They should have never let it happen. It did happen, and because of the fact that they let this happen, this catastrophe of October 7th, something like this becomes practical and very real, meaning the development and all of the things that I've talked about with respect to the Gaza Strip. If you didn't have the October 7th catastrophe, and it was a horrible catastrophe, then probably you wouldn't be talking about that. But the only thing I can say is this is going to bring stability and peace to the Middle East. And ultimately, when it's developed, which will be in quite a while from now, because we want to let things calm down, but when it's developed, it's going to bring tremendous numbers of jobs to the Middle East, including the people of your country.
What if it does not bring peace to the Middle East? There are many Palestinians, even though you say that everything is going to be beautiful, everything is going to be lovely, they're not going to want to go back.
This is how you make generations on generations on generations on generations on generations of terrorists.
There are going to be people who want to go back and feel like that it is their right to do that. You haven't said, will there be any type of repercussions or anything that happens? We
don't think that's going to happen. We think people are going to be very happy, thrilled. A lot of those people that you're talking about are going to end up maybe living.
Especially the more successful that place, like let's say we did do it, right? And that place ends up being successful and it's a tourist destination and it makes fucking millions of dollars and shit. Like that's just gonna make it worse.
And maybe work in there, but it'll be in a different form. We have had tremendous support for this project, and we think the biggest asset of the project is going to bring peace ultimately to the Middle East. All right.
Mr. President, one last question.
Go ahead behind you. You've asked enough.
Mr. President, one of your promises on the campaign trail is to bring peace to the Middle East. It was a promise to your Arab voters here. The Arab voters in the United States oppose this. What do you say to that?
Well, you know, if you look at Michigan, where we have a large Arab population, as you know, I was just telling the King that we won. As you know, I won the Arab population. Now, when I started off, I wasn't leading, and when I finished, a few months later, we started campaigning in Michigan. And when I finished, we won it by a tremendous amount, by 30 points. So my relationship with the Arab population has been fantastic, and my relationship with the Middle East is very good with all the countries, just about all the countries. Let's see, I would say all the countries. And they all want to do something, and they want to see peace in the Middle East. All the stories you hear about the Middle East not really wanting peace, that they want war, they want this, they want to go a certain place. Let me tell you, the stories are false. They want to have peace. I know them all very well. They want to have peace. They want to have a good life like other people. And this will be a big factor in bringing peace to the Middle East. Thank you very much, everyone.
Look at how long there's been peace in the Middle East in the modern era.
Thank you.
Come on, guys, quickly, please.
Thank you.
Guys, let's go. Come on, quickly.
Moving on this way. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Come on, guys.
We'll just take it. What authority? U.S. authority. Doge is going to buy it from all the money they save from Meals on Wheels. All right, guys, I'm out. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being here. The country's falling apart. It's in shambles, so I don't know what to tell you. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Have a good night. Let me see you. Bye. I'm going to have to start coming in early to cover all the shit that's going on right now. It's so wild. Have a good night. We'll see you on the next one. If you enjoyed the show, consider supporting it at coldbeer.fund, coldbeer.fund. That's how I keep the show running. I'm a disabled veteran, but that pays for everything else. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
By name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believers? Y'all need Jesus. Praise the Lord, head to the extreme. All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like Thor in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your Huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I...
Have a good night.